Tomorrow is a big day for the United States. After more than a year of campaigning, it's time. It's time for the 2016 presidential election. Now, who's going to win? Will it be Hillary Clinton or will it be Donald Trump? Well, that's for you to decide. I'm here to take you back and look at the 5 most memorable moments of this election and see how we all got here. Welcome to Vlogs of Knowledge. The 2016 presidential election has got the world watching, and I think it's safe to say that this has been one of the craziest and most unique elections to date. So now let's take a look at some of the important moments of this election and see how we all got here. First of all, we have to go back to 2015 when a certain businessman named Donald Trump, officially announced his candidacy for the President of the United States.
I am officially running for President of the United States. And we are going to make our country great again.
Now, who would have thought Donald Trump for president? I mean, is this some kind of joke? Well, that's what a lot of people thought. Nobody really took him seriously. But now if you look at the polls, he's currently polling very high and he is in second place, second only to Hillary Clinton. Talk about a turn of events. Trump has said some very bad things that in the past would have probably disqualified any other presidential candidate. I think we can all remember the binders full of women, right? Well, even though he said some very bad things, he's still polling very high, and there had been times where he was polling number 1 overall in the country, and I find that very interesting. For our next moment, we're going back to summer of this year. We had the 2016 Republican National Convention, or the RNC, and boy did that one make the headlines. When it became clear that Donald Trump was going to be the Republican nominee for the presidency, a lot of important political people chose not to show up. Romney, McCain, George W. Bush, and George H.W. Bush all chose not to show up. And I mean, it's kind of understandable. You're not going to show up to support somebody who you don't really support his ideals. And I mean, I think we can all agree that Donald Trump has some very weird political ideas. Then we had Melania Trump, Donald Trump's wife, deliver a speech that seemed to have been very much plagiarized by another speech done by Michelle Obama about 8 years before that. I mean, the similarities are there. She did say the same things in the same order. It's kind of clear that she plagiarized, and you don't really do that, especially at the RNC. And of course, a lot of people were furious with her. I mean, how can you really copy somebody else's speech? And then we had Ted Cruz that was actually booed off stage when it was clear that he wasn't going to endorse Donald Trump. And I mean, sure, Ted Cruz had his reasons for not endorsing Donald Trump, but still, getting booed off stage at the RNC, that must have felt pretty bad. Poor guy. All in all, it was a very interesting convention that managed to make some headlines, and that lasted for about a week, until the Democratic National Convention. Now, the Democratic National Convention, or the DNC, was kind of a hopeful one. I mean, all they really had to do was not make the same mistakes that the RNC did about a week before that. And I think we all know how that went. In the days leading up to the DNC, about 20,000 emails were leaked from WikiLeaks showing the corruption that went on in the Democratic Party. Now, I'm not going to go through all 20,000 emails because, let's face it, that would take forever, but I will summarize them. Basically, they showed how staffers in the Democratic Party were pro-Hillary and against Bernie Sanders, and they actually made sure that Hillary would get the nomination. And I mean, a lot of people were pissed off. You had a lot of Bernie supporters that wanted Bernie Sanders to win, and when they saw the corruption, they were furious, and I mean, it's understandable. And things got even worse when Bernie Sanders still chose to endorse Hillary Clinton even after the emails were leaked. But to be fair, I kind of understand Bernie Sanders, because if he wasn't going to endorse Hillary Clinton, he would actually be helping Donald Trump win. And ultimately, that's what the DNC did not want. They wanted Hillary to win and not Donald Trump. The DNC then continued with supporting speeches from both Michelle and Barack Obama, both favoring Hillary Clinton. Also, a lot of things had been said about Donald Trump, things like he's going to run his country like a business and that's no way to run a country, and that Donald Trump is unfit for the presidency. Basically, the whole DNC was about bashing Donald Trump and favoring Hillary Clinton. Now, for some time after that, things were relatively quiet. And I mean, I say relatively quiet because by then the threshold for what was out of the ordinary was pretty high. Now, our next memorable moment happened about a month ago when a recording of Donald Trump surfaced showing him saying some very sexual and sexist things about women. Basically, he was objectifying women, but in a very bad way. Donald Trump has said some very bad things during his campaign, but this one seemed to be the worst. And I mean, I say the worst because this one hit his campaign the hardest. He had to do a lot of PR to fix this, much more than he had to do previously, which is kind of interesting. People were angry, and Donald Trump, he lost a lot of supporters because of this. And it makes sense, right? How can a presidential candidate be caught saying such sexist things against against women. And it really did not help his cause when a bunch of women came out with allegations of sexual harassment and even sexual abuse against Donald Trump. Yeah, Donald Trump's campaign took a really big hit there. And of course, how can we talk about the election without talking about the debates? Well, we've had 3 debates, and there were more personal attacks than anything political, at least in my opinion. Do I really have to talk about them? I mean, the countless false facts, the frequent interruptions, and the dodging of questions, they were very interesting. I've heard people say that they should have had a switch that could shut the candidates' microphones off, and that would have helped organize things, and frankly, I agree. I think it's safe to say that this has been one of the craziest elections that, like I mentioned before, is going to be talked about for a very long time. And we're all curious as to who's going to win. Will it be Hillary Clinton or will it be Donald Trump? And honestly, that's for you to decide. Tomorrow is voting day, so make sure to vote. I will be across the border up north watching with, I assume, the rest of the world, and we're all curious as to what's going to happen. Tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Alright, that was it for this week's episode of Vlogs of History. I really do hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please leave a like, share it to a friend, and subscribe to be notified. Alright, that was it for this week's episode of Vlogs of History. I really do hope that you've enjoyed it and that you've maybe learned something. If you did, please leave a like, share it to a friend, and subscribe to be notified when the next episode comes out. Remember that these episodes come out every single Monday, and if you missed the previous one, there's a link on your screen. If not, it's in the description. Make sure to check it out, it's very interesting. As always, I'm your host, Darius Cosden. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I will see you all next week.